Is that okay to do? No, that's not good. What's negative 3 equal to, guys? If you were to rewrite it somehow. Could you just write negative 3 is equal to 3? No, that would be wrong. Right? If you owe somebody $3, and all of a sudden, can that dollar be positive 3? No, it doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm talking about? Like negative 3, if you have, this would be nice, wouldn't it? Like in your bank account, you have negative 3, which means you owe somebody $3. Well, all of a sudden it becomes positive 3. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah, but then bank wouldn't like that because then they lose money. Right? Anyway, negative 3 is negative 1 times 3, isn't it? It's not just 3, is it? So keep that in mind. Let's look at this example. 5 times b minus 4 plus 3b times 4 minus b. And you say, wait a minute, Mr. Huang, this one looks different than example 1. I don't have any GCF. Right? But I just told you something about, well, look at what's inside. Isn't this kind of b minus 4? I got 4 minus b. Don't they look kind of similar? Right? Wouldn't that be great if they're common factors? Are they common factors? No, why not? Okay, first of all, what you should do is, Aaron, what should you do? Can I multiply both group by negative 1? What do I have, an equation or expression? I have I don't have an equation. It doesn't equal to some other expression, does it? This isn't what? Expression. Can you just multiply an expression by negative 1? No, you can't. And Aaron, if you multiply both of these by negative 1, it doesn't really help you because they don't become common factors, do they? Yeah, somebody say, okay, so let's do this one at a time. First of all, is this written in a nice form, 4 minus b? Is that in standard form? No, let's rewrite this as a. Hello? Rewrite this as a standard form. Can somebody do that for me? What would I get if I were to write that as a standard form? Yes, sir. Same thing for the first 5 times b minus 4, what? Plus? Okay, tell me what to write. How do I write this as a standard form? Oh, yeah, so hold on a second. Oh yeah, you're way ahead of me. So first of all, 4 minus b, is that in standard form? Somebody tell me how to write that as a standard form. Yes, what, 2 people, 3 people? Come on, you can, yes, Audrey. 4 plus negative p, is that in standard form? You're right, it is 4 plus negative p, but is that in standard form? Chris? Negative p plus 4, isn't that right? That's what you meant. Right? Now, look at what we have in that parentheses. Wouldn't that be great if they're common factors? Then I could factor those out, right? And maybe I'll be done. Right now, they're not common. I don't see any common factors. But, anybody, Paul, you see something interesting? What do you see? Do you see, oh, you don't see anything? What can I do here? Because I'm telling you, there is a way to factor this thing. Aaron? Oh, no. Oops, sorry. Sarah, you see something interesting?
You can multiply b minus 4.
Okay. Sarah says, let's multiply b minus 4 by negative 1. Okay, Sarah, let me go back to the example. If I have negative 3, could I just multiply negative 3 by negative 1 and get 3? Yeah? So if you owe somebody $3, if you have negative 3 in the bank, and you just let me just multiply that by negative 1, and then the bank has to pay you $3, does that make any sense? No, you can't do that, can you? So you can't just multiply negative b plus 4 by negative 1, but that'll be nice. Why would you want to do that, by the way? Yeah, then if you were to multiply that by negative 1, it'd be nice, right? Because b minus 4, you get a common factor. But you can't just multiply something by negative 1, especially if it's an expression. If you have an equation, you can multiply both sides by negative 1 if you wanted to. But here, you don't have an equation. So what do I do? Hint, hint, look at what I have up there. What's negative 3 equal to? Negative 3 is the same as negative 1 times positive 3, isn't it? Anybody see what I could do here? In other words, are these opposite of each other? B minus 4 and negative b plus 4? Yeah, look. You have positive b on the left. You got now negative b. You have negative 4 here, you got positive 4. They're totally opposite of each other, aren't they? So anybody have an idea? Hint, hint, look at what I have here. What's negative 3 equal to? Gianni? I could factor out a negative 1. Alvin, tell me what to write. Oh, you multiply that out? Could I just leave it as negative 1? Like negative 1 times that. Guess what? A lot of so here must be able to identify the opposite. If you can, if you know that these two are opposite of each other, right? We just identified it, right? Aren't they opposite of each other? Then you could always factor out a negative 1. Now, guess what people mess up on this when they do this? Yeah. They forget to put the negative 1. They just multiply it by negative 1. I mean, that's what you're doing in your head to get that, right? But you can't just forget about it. You know what I mean? Just like that negative 3 doesn't turn into positive 3 all of a sudden. Wouldn't that be great? Yes? Can I what?
You just get like 5b minus 20 and then negative 3b squared plus 12b
Yeah.
equals to negative 3
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. But then, is that factor? Look at your answer at the end. You see? That's a great idea. Somebody says, wait a minute, why don't we just multiply this 5, you know, multiply, right? Distribute the whole thing, right? Gather all the like terms and get, what did you get? You got?
yeah, then we get those form, then you factor from there. So
And you factor from there, really? What did you get as your answer? Yeah, see, you can't factor that. Yeah, it does simplify. You can simplify the expression, but it doesn't factor. We're trying to factor here. At the end, you get a binomial, don't you? Right? Oh, you don't get a binomial. You get, you do get, yeah, you get trinomial or something. But that trinomial, you could try to factor too. But yeah, that will work. But you could, that's a little bit longer than doing it this way, because all you, so that trinomial, you could definitely do that. That's a great question. You can multiply, distribute all that, get a trinomial, factor that trinomial. But isn't this a little bit easier? So, because all you have to do is now, what's 3b times negative 1? Huh? Negative 3b. And now you have a common factor. Now, if you would have factored out that trinomial, you would have gotten b minus 4 times negative 3b plus 5. Does that make sense? Yeah, you could do it that way. But here, once you notice that one of them is totally the opposite of the other, you could always factor out a negative 1, and it makes it a little bit easier. Does that make sense? But he's correct. You could actually multiply this whole thing out and get a trinomial and factor it out that way. Okay, if it ever comes to that, that's fine. But this will be a lot faster. And believe me, on the test, do you think you want to do things kind of the best way, the fastest way, if you can? Yeah, faster and easiest. That's the way we want to do this. Okay, do you get the idea? Do you think you could do another one like this? If I were to give it to you? Yeah, so on your book, it's not going to be that simple. You're not going to be able to see the GCF really easily. You know what I mean? You're going to have to kind of work at it. So, yeah, okay, you got it? So, why don't you, go ahead, everybody try example 3. Same idea as before. Go ahead, everybody try. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Now, first of all, is this written in standard form, 3 minus y? No. So somebody tell me how to rewrite that so that they look kind of similar. Yes, Melissa? That's right. So I write it as in standard form. Okay. I even change it to addition right here in the middle. Is that okay? Now, are they opposite of each other? Y minus 3 and negative y plus 3? Yeah, so then we know how to deal with those if they're opposite of each other. What do I do next? Raise your hand. William, can you help me out? I do what? Yeah, I factor negative 1. So tell me what to write. Times y minus 3 plus. What's the second term again? Negative 2 times what? That's right. Times negative 1. Don't forget that negative 1, right? You identify that they're opposite of each other. Then we know how to deal with those. If they're opposite of each other, you factor out negative 1. By the way, what's negative 2 times negative 1? 2. Okay. So who could tell me then the answer? Notice you have a common factor. You see, it just becomes a GCF question. 1, 2, people. Sarah, tell me what to write.
3y plus 2 y minus 3.
times, right? Times. That's important because we're trying to factor. Because right now, am I done right here? No, of course not. You have to factor the whole polynomial. There it is. Now the whole thing is as a product, isn't that right? How many got this? Raise your hand. Is this easy or hard? Okay, try the next one then. Go ahead. Hold on, let me. Okay, go ahead, guys. Try this one. I like this one because, okay, you'll see why in a minute. Go ahead, everybody try. Okay, let's try this together. So, let's write this in standard form, right? It's not written in standard form, is it? So, somebody tell me how to write this in standard form. Yeah. Right, so instead of 3 plus a, I get? Don't I get this when I rewrite this in standard form? Right? Right now it's 3 plus a. That's not in standard form, is it? So I wrote it as a plus. Okay, so what do I do next? Oh, I just multiply. I just factor out a negative 1 from the last two terms, right? No? Why not? Yeah, if I do, what do I get, guys? Negative a. Is that opposite of each other? No. So do I have any GCF? No. So you can't really do much here, can you? Sorry. So not everything, even though they look kind of similar, just because they look similar doesn't mean they're opposite of each other. You can't just make something as a common factor when they're not. You can't just force something. You know what I mean? I see that some people kind of do this, okay, and get it wrong. Just make it. You can't do that, can you? So guess what? You stop. You can't. Doesn't really work. Guess what you're gonna do if it doesn't work, guys? So, am I done? No. Because I don't know whether it doesn't group. I can't factor the GCF here. So, anybody have any idea? Ryan, what do I do? Oh. Anybody? Well, yes, Stefan. Yeah, you multiply it out, and then you get the trinomial, and see if that trinomial factors. Do you see what I mean? That's the only way you have left. Does that make sense? So if I multiply this out, what do I get? What's 5 times a minus 3, class? 5a minus 15, and then don't you get negative 6a minus 2a squared? You see, you're multiplying negative 2a times 3, negative 6a, negative 2a times a, you get negative 2a squared, right? If you don't like that, make it into addition, right? Isn't that right? So, Austin, what's the trinomial that I get? Let's write it in standard form. Yeah.
It's negative 2a squared.
Uh-huh.
Is it plus a?
Is it plus a or minus
Or I
a?
think it's
Minus, you have more of negative. Yeah. Minus a, minus 15. Do you see how I get a trinomial? Right? That's what Chemi was saying, right? You could have actually, but this one, does this factor now? I don't like this negative 2, so I should factor out a negative 1. So let me just rewrite it this way, right? It's negative 1 times. You see how it's now, since that I factored out a negative 1, everything's opposite of what I had before. I used to have negative 2a, now squared, positive 2a squared, negative a, positive a, negative 15, positive 15, right? Now, how many ways are there to get 2a squared? Just one, which is kind of nice. So it's negative 1 times something. How many ways are there to get 15? You could get 1, 15, and 3 and 5. Does it work? Is it any of them work? I tried negatives. I even tried positive. But by the way, I'm not even going to try positive, because if I try positive, there's no way I'm going to get this equal to 1a. Isn't that right? Even negatives. If I try negative, then it's going to be negative in the middle. So is it going to work at all? No, it's not going to work. Guess what? This is prime, not factorable. Okay? Does that make sense? So don't try to make something. This is what I see some people try to do. They try to make, just because they look like they're opposite of each other, they factor out a negative 1 and they kind of force it. You can't just, when something is not opposite of something else, you can't just make something else to opposite. Does that make sense? You gotta, right? You gotta deal with it some other way. Are we good? Okay. So next example, they're not gonna give it to you so nicely. This time they give it to you this way. How is this different than previous examples? This time, what's different? Write this down. 2ab minus 6ac plus 3b minus 9c. How is this different than the other examples? Yes, Aaron?
There are no GCFs in none of groups.
Yeah, then none of them are grouped together.